So first question.
Probably guess the kind of question I'm going to ask, but I'm interested. I'm assuming all of you are gamers.
Does everybody here play games?
Yeah.
What
Wait, this is a game conference?
Okay.
Right? But like gamers first, right?
Yes.
Like, and so what I'm interested in is what's like the most meaningful experience you've had in a video game?
What is it by meaningful? Are you ready for a good answer?
So if we're talking meaningful experience, like what it meant to me, I've got to say the most meaningful experience for me was Sword of Mana. That game just, I cried multiple times. It was just so sad because there's only one bad guy, but there were like 4 villains. And they weren't bad because they were evil. It was bad because there's a breakdown in communication. They thought you were there for a different purpose than you were there for, and you didn't know, and it was just...
This is a tragedy.
Well, it was more of looking deeper than not everyone's just evil. Sometimes there's motivations behind it, and sometimes people are being played by the bigger evil. And they're just being used, they're victims themselves, so that really messed around with my head a good bit.
I have one more. About like a recent experience. You have one? Right, Kelly?
If you ask me later, my answer might be completely different because I have so many games that I love went through my head. But I think one of the biggest impact moments for me was when I really realized just how immersive a game could be, and that was playing Portal 2. I was in the back rooms behind the catacombs, like once you escape the testing chambers with Wheatley. It was super dark, and I actually was so freaked out and nervous that in real life I was like, Wheatley, where'd you go? What's going on? And that stayed with me about how immersive a game can be, even without Oculus Rift or any fancy equipment making it so, just from good atmosphere and story.
My most recent experience would have to be between The Last of Us and The Walking Dead, because those 2 games really make it feel like you're inside of a world where there are people, the actual people, and some of the gameplay aspects was say for instance, now I don't want to spoil it, but anyway, but yeah, you know, I'll just give an example that's not even in the game. Like, you'll maybe get injured, and when that character is injured, he'll be limping, and you know the enemies that are coming at, you know, he'll swing or whatever, and you can tell that he's, you know, from the swing and the animation that he's injured. And it really sells that drama of his pain while he's going through that scene. So that type of experience really makes the player feel what the character is going through at that time. So The Walking Dead and Last of Us does that really, really well to make you feel for that character and what they're going through.
All right, who's got another question? Otherwise, you can stay on this one. Is it time? All right.
Okay, so all of you are essentially the future of the Christian gaming
Hooray.
industry, right?
No, they're
So
not
what-
the future, they are.
well,
We are the future.
You're doomed. So what I want to know from you guys, what is it, how do you want this industry or the Christian games to grow and change? What are some ideas you have that are going to create the future that we're going to see?
All right, that's good.
Well, with the Christian games industry, so far what we have is we have maybe a few kind of games that aren't really Christian, but they're made by Christians, but then a few games that are really Christian games, like all Bible story type things. And you're not going to be able to get that far with either of them. If it's really subtle, it's made by Christians, so you don't include certain things. You can only go so far with that. You're like, oh, this is a good, wholesome experience, but you can't go that far because you can't deal with those more complex themes. With the super Bible game type things, that's only going to appeal to your Christians, as you've said earlier with expanding beyond Christian niche. You can't go that far with that, it's only for Christians. What we really need to do is not ignore the bad things of our world, but rather incorporate them in a way that really does make us wrestle with those things. Because as you start out, when you're young, when you're little, you don't want to expose children or things to certain things. But as you grow up, they start seeing the world how it is, they have to wrestle with new things as they grow up. First time maybe you hear someone swear, that's a big thing when you're younger. That changes how you look at things. And so likewise, our games are going to have to grow up. They can't just stay completely just pure with ignoring how the world actually works, and we can't stay just in the Bible. We have to present experiences that show the world how it is, make people wrestle with these things, so it just won't be, oh, it's a kid's game, or it's a Bible game. We actually have to create games that make people think about how this world works, how we can deal with it, how we can move forward. And that is just, I think that's how, if we can do that as an industry, that would be one of the best ways we can make a difference, making people think and evaluate and just think, wow, this is how things act, this is how things really are. And if we can make people think like that, it could lead many people to Christ. That's my opinion.
We got that on tape, right?
All right, does anybody who hasn't spoken yet have something?
Like,
That's another.
why do you
Oh,
have
alright.
to play
What?
a game
Oh, hold on.
of
What's going on?
that's so realistic that it seems like life when you could just get off your computer and go outside and play life in real?
Yeah, that's another question. Because
Like, why do you
sometimes,
want a life game when you can just
Speak up, kid.
speak so
Project,
yeah.
Shakespeare.
So ask the question really loud, so.
Why would you want to play a game that's pretty much just you living life when you can go out and actually live life?
He's not saying, he's not just saying live life, he's saying like portray real life things inside the game. Don't pretty everything up.
Make
You
it
can't be
sincere.
playing a
Fantasy
real
world or
life game.
something. For example, you can take themes from real life, and you can put them in a different context in a fantasy world, sci-fi things. So you can tell it's not actually the real world, but through this different world, you can see these things in a different light and kind of evaluate them outside of kind of real life. Because that is one of the great things about games and fiction, is that we can create different worlds that aren't the same as ours. And that way we can explore themes differently without the cultural kind of connotations that go with lots of things in our world. So, oh, that's just how things are, that's our world. But in this other world, we can actually look at it objectively compared to that world. And kind of, by doing that, we can learn more about our own world.
So what's very telling about her question is that there's a lot of kids who aren't playing a lot of games because of that. They think, why am I going to play the game? You know, why am I going to spend all these hours on an MMO or something where I can go live a life where it's like I can just go out and live a life with my friends, right? And of course the answer is, oh, there's things you can do in a game that you can't do in real life, which a really good answer is, yeah, there's, you know, a lot of things you can do in real life you can't do in a video game. So I think that was a very great that you asked that, you know. All right, now where were we? You Matt.
What I want to see from the Christian industry, because I don't believe it exists currently, is games that would appeal to both the secular audience and the Christian audience with entire Christian motives, but the secular audience would want to play the game because it's a good quality game that has great gameplay and is similar to other games that exist, and it's got good story and everything, but it's known as a Christian game and quality.
That's what he wants to see.
If I may add on to what he said, I feel like there's a lot of an attitude of, oh, we can't have blatantly Christian games making it to the mass market, but let's look at all the other stories that have heavily involved a religion and have been embraced by the, I mean, and not always in the best way. One of the most popular anime ever made is Neon Genesis Evangelion, and it heavily incorporates Christian themes, not in a very good Christian way, but it heavily incorporates those basic themes of the religious sense. A lot of anime likes to incorporate these Christian themes because they're exotic, and they're not seen as something that cannot be accessed by the people there. Just as one set of examples.
Good addition. All right, you're up.
And one thing I would love to see, like, if we like reinterpret original stories and change them, like having the same baseline, I guess, but change
Letting
them,
you
like,
explore the story in
in a different way, like re-look on these stories. Because you know we have like Noah's Ark and things, and I think that's why Christian games don't have that much of an appeal, because it's supposed to be a really general story. But I think you should change it like differently to be newer and refreshed.
So what she wants to see is these biblical stories kind of played out in a way where I can go in and play with it and sort of kind of add more kind of time to the situation, retell the story.
I think she's,
In a modern, yeah.
Modernize.
So-
Contemporary.
I think what she's meaning to say is she wants to see Bible stories except in a different setting. And you kind of see
Is that what
how
you?
that would, yeah, that's what she's
Yeah,
trying to.
No, no, hold on. No, let her talk. She's gonna tell you if that's what she said.
My brother's,
Yeah, he's glad to say it.
So yeah. So yesterday, wait, what's today? Anyway,
It's Saturday.
previously on Thursday, I think Thomas was talking about an Assassin's Creed. It was what was the cathedral or whatever?
Well, that was last year, wasn't it?
Yeah. So he had been. What is it? St. Francis of Assisi. So St. Francis of Assisi, he went there in real life and he saw it, but then in the game he could swing on chandeliers and kind of really taste and see.
You get to see the actual things in different height and everything.
Right. So is that what you're wanting
Yeah,
to
but
see?
I don't know if this is a good idea or not, but what if you like futurize the story of Jesus in like a futuristic setting?
Steampunk.
Steampunk Jesus.
All right, let's move on. Let's go to the
The Israelite guy.
Israelites kind of doing that.
New question?
Say more like that. Put your hand down.
New question?
Yeah, not to totally kill off your creativity, but I think we understand what you're wanting to see, and I think a lot of us want to see it. And you talk too much.
I just want to add.
Hold on, this guy.
I think it'd be cool if we could make games. Well, most games nowadays, the shooting games, they just have death as, life isn't really worth much. You just go around shooting people like that. We can make games that make, when you kill a person, it feels like real death. Not like, most games will just run around, ooh, yeah, I killed them. And it's not like it's really happening. It's really cool.
Like seeing it as a
Just like killing them encourages you not to do it.
Some more games of permadeath?
they have that.
Did everybody hear what this guy said? Profound thing.
I heard that.
I only heard about half of it.
So he was saying that I'm playing lots of, hold on, he didn't say that. He said there's lots of games where you're just mowing people down with a gun and the death isn't such a real thing, right? You become sort of desensitized where it's like that. He said the life had no value, right? Because all these guys are just made to knock down like dominoes, right? And so he said he wants to see where there's value to that life, where you kind of see that, is this what you're saying? That when you kill somebody, that's a kind of a big deal, right? Yeah, or that the life is valued.
Like,
Excellent.
you could make a game where if you kill someone, that it's possible to meet up with their family at some later point or something, and they're like all sad.
Guilt game.
Yeah, so.
Ooh, that's powerful right there.
Like,
That's some bright minds
That's
up there.
what I thought of to make it
Yeah.
understandable,
Yeah.
how you could make it the life after that feel more realistic or something. Like you can see their family later.
Yeah. So she's saying, what if after you kill somebody in a game, all of a sudden you have to confront the family, and see people mourning and stuff. Yeah. Okay, let's go.
I want to, not so much a
Real
question,
quick.
not so much a question as this comment, two comments. First, I really noticed that our audience here is greatly diminished. And that's sad to me because.
That's because they're all here.
They're all here. Listen. I think that's really sad because what they're saying is really important. And the rest of the audience that isn't here needs to hear that. Tim, this is a comment for you. Let's next year, let's put the youth panel during prime time. Because I really want what they have to say for everyone to be heard. They need to hear that. Because what they're saying is really important. Second, I'm wondering if it wouldn't be worth creating some sort of mentor program, because I think their ideas for games are something that would be, if they had a routine with a mentor so they can create those games they want to create, that'd be great. And I think that'd be very helpful.
That means discipleship.
Yeah, and just to follow that up, I'm glad that whoever's idea this was a great idea. I'm glad that we even have this. I've never
These
seen
are the games that won't be in virtual reality and stuff, so,
All right.
who knows what we're going to have years down the
Is this on the
line.
same topic?
Yeah, this is,
Can you make it real short?
yeah, I'll try and make it short. I just want better storytelling in the Christian game circle in general, no matter what genre you're doing, because I feel like I'm seeing a lot of either fun iOS style games, which don't really have much of a story, which is fine. I love games like, say, Hardlander, which was done here. I was geeking out over that. And then I see a lot of Bible games that they either straight up follow biblical story, again, not bad, but there are other ones that kind of feel like they're a chick track. The world laughs at chick tracks these days, guys. I hate to say that, but it's kind of the truth. And what a great story can cover up, low budget, not the best graphics, so many other things. Why do people still watch Toy Story? It has nothing to do with, oh my gosh, HD, so amazing. No, it looks really dated. But the story was so good that people keep going back to it. So my point is, I feel like we need better writing. Even if you're complaining that you don't have enough of a budget to make the kind of game perfectly that you want to, invest in a good story. Invest that time, and everything else will be excusable. If you can't get the best graphics, if you're using default RPG Maker graphics and have an amazing, epic, spanning story, I believe people will be interested in it.
So Kelly obviously loves games with good story.
I just want to back up and say, there's new writers here. Guys, come on, we'll work for cheap.
Speak for yourself on free. I'm in college.
It gets you in somewhere.
Cheap though,
Yeah.
cheap, very cheap.
And when I was a teenager, there were, it was like really good role-playing games, kind of in the golden Super Nintendo area of role-playing games. It was like, this is what we were reading. You couldn't get us to read a book.
Yeah.
But we'd read through all this,
Yeah,
kind of sappy dot
Oh man.
story.
Legend of
Get us actually reading.
Legend of
Let's do let's do another question.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So we see that a lot of you have the passion for this. What practical steps have you guys been taking towards your dream of game development?
There we go.
All right, hold on. We have new hands. Hold on. Yeah. I want you to say something.
Okay. So the main reason, I guess if this will answer your question, the main reason why I play games and why I'm more into the creative careers, I guess, if that makes sense, is I'm, like Kelly said, I'm looking for a good story. I also, whether that may mean a good story that the game will take me through, or I get to, I guess, create my own story. Like one of the reasons why I guess I'm obsessed with Minecraft is because you have so much control over what you're doing. There's no, of course there's a way to complete the game, but you have so much control over what you're doing. You can basically live out the story you want to, any way you want to. And students always yeah. So that story is really what I'm looking for, if that makes sense.
Good. All right, you on the end. I know that you've done a lot of stuff. So I want to hear you answer.
Yeah, my name badge kind of tells the story for me. It was like 3 different companies and 3 different ways I'm helping them. Helping my mom with making her game, helping Soma Games, who I don't think any of them are in. Of course. So I have an internship with them. Basically, I'm just trying to jump in head first almost and try to just see how everything's done and figure it out.
So you guys have the benefit of family members and people around you that are actively working on games. You get to be around developers, so you get opportunity to participate.
It also has the benefit of tools.
Right, yeah, kind of have the access, yeah. So,
That's also free though.
I'm gonna jump.
To me, this is very important because it's close to home. I have 2 people in the household that's addicted to computers. It's ruining their family life, it's ruining their social life, and their employment. How can y'all build into the future ways. Now, I know in Europe that they're taking the games will shut down for a little while at a time. What can y'all do to monitor yourselves?
Okay.
Did everybody hear the question?
Yes.
No, in the back, did you guys hear the question?
I've dealt
All right,
with,
go ahead, Kelly.
I've dealt
Let's
with,
make it quicker.
I've dealt with internet addiction, so I know exactly what she's talking about. Unfortunately, we live in a world where you can't exactly cut yourself off cold turkey to computer like a lot of other damaging addictions. It really helps to look up apps and programs that do exist to help limit computer time. There are things that will block websites on certain days. A lot of times an addiction is basically mostly one social networking website that you find yourself going to without thinking about it. There are other apps that'll set timers. There are programs built into computers that set timers. You really need to limit yourself and you really need to stick to those things. But there are things out there to help people. Because internet addiction was just classified as an official mental illness this year. And there are things that can help people out with that. There's lots of programs out there and stuff to help intervene with those issues.
So set limits, use technology to set limits. If that
Yeah, I wish I could remember some of the exact names off the top of my head. I'd give them to you. I'll look for the names.
All right, yeah, go ahead and then we'll do that.
So, I actually watched a documentary on this. It's called Second Life. Mostly World of Warcraft people. People who lost their entire lives spent pretty much the entire day playing World of Warcraft, and I've dealt with something similar. How I've dealt with it is mainly trying to keep busy doing other things. It's always something you fight against, and it's just really learning to find other things to do. Because if you volunteer for something or give up time, even if it's involved with a game, if you are moving away from just me playing the game all on my own and start giving your time to other people, it helps break you away from just must-play video games. And it allows you to interact with people, and then that helps you sort of pry yourself away from the need of the game, because usually people are addicted to video games when they don't like real life, just like people become usually addicted to alcohol and things like that because of a problem in their life. So it's really about trying to pull away, because you're not using it as a crutch, because video games aren't meant to be crutched, they're there for people to enjoy, and as soon as you do that, you're abusing what the game is.
Can y'all build something in the games themselves?
Some games say it's a good idea to take a break after you play for an
The
hour.
Wii does that.
Nintendo, yeah, there's cheating.
So that's always a good reminder.
Tomodachi does
But most of the
Every
time,
first-party Nintendo title is required to tell you to take a break.
Tomodachi's
Play
never
for-
told me to
for
take
an
a
hour.
break.
yeah.
They literally tell you, please stop playing our game for a little while, for your sake of your health.
The ultimate thing is it comes down to self-control, because that's the only way to, I mean, you can build it into games that just, it kills it, but people are going to get angry at me for that. Because what if I'm not abusing it? Then I have to suffer with everyone, the people who are. So what it really comes down to is that people need to police themselves, and people need to be aware that this is a problem and help keep people accountable, just like, Alcoholics Anonymous.
Exactly.
Things like that. We need to do that. It's not specifically something you can just shove in a game and say, now you can't play it
There's a lot
for
of
an hour.
And remember in your answers that we're not even just talking about video games, but
there's a lot
I
of
can always be on. All right, Chelsea,
Okay, I wanted to answer his question, and I'll answer your question. Practical steps that I've taken, I'm not going to include college. After I got my bachelor's degree, it's just taking the time out of your day and saying, or out of your week and planning, I'm going to do animation for 2 hours on this day. I'm going to do animation for 2 hours. So I'll say, okay, Thursday and Friday, I'm going to do animation for 2 hours. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to work on my weaknesses. Okay, let's say I'm weak in my poses. And I'll be like, okay, I need to work on my poses. And I'll keep doing that, keep working on it. And then after that, I'll like take that piece and I'll send it to people like in the industry or other artists that can critique it, because if I'm only looking at it, there's going to be things that I miss. So then I'll take it, I'll send it to them, and then they'll say, hey, you should do this, you should do that. Oh, there's something wrong here. And then I come back to me, I'll work on that, and I'll fix it. So those are kind of like steps that I take to improve my craft, to make sure that I don't suck. So I'll keep working on my craft, just keep working on it. I won't spend too much time, but I'll keep working on that and get a critique on it, and just keep trying to knock out my weaknesses so that I can, become better. And then towards your question, basically, I've always been, I feel like this generation is, the technology is kind of taking over. And, you know, when I was a kid, I was riding bikes, I was going outside, I was going to the playground, you know, spending time with my friends and stuff like that. And, you know, one thing that, you know, I do to make sure I don't, you know, I make sure I at least go for a jog or I exercise or, you know, I like to do martial arts. And one thing that I want to promote is, you know, I've always had the dream of having like my own game studio. And one thing that I want to promote is martial arts. And I think a lot of kids like martial arts and they want to get involved in something like that, and even adults. So I feel like that, using that is an avenue to take them away from the screen and to, you know, to get involved in activities. This is all about the activities that you're involved in, and that's a physical activity. So just I think overall, it's just in games, I would like to promote that, you know, like Nintendo does it, take a break or something like that, or oh yeah, you know, try this martial art technique or something like that. And, you know, people will get, you know, this, you know, YouTube, you got YouTube channels and all that, connected with the games and connected with martial arts, and just getting involved in an activity like that. And, you know, I think more people would get up, you know, and try those techniques to keep themselves active.
And I'll throw in a bonus is that if you can use the technology to force the kids to kind of go out and find other relationships and such, you can be very profitable making, you know, games like that. The original Pokemon games had 2 versions, and if you want to get all the Pokemon, you got to go find somebody to trade with. There's the Street Pass games now where you have to go out and, you know, pass by people who have a
Pokewalkers.
But yeah, right. And then there's you know, pedometer kind of devices where if you want to train up your Pokemon or you want to earn coins in your system, you got to go walk around. Yeah, so we're out of time. So unfortunately,
Guys, sorry, we've got a commitment to be at the lunchroom. Did we want lunch?
Right.
However, we'll give thanks here, and then you guys are welcome to carry on the conversation once we get over there. Find your seats and continue on as long as you like. But we should get over there because otherwise they're unhappy with us.